I know this cake is gonna be good because it's got two of my favorite ingredients in it. Putting these together in any way, like, it's gonna be good. What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a little cozy Sunday bake with me. My brother and his girlfriend are coming over and I wanted to make dessert for dinner tonight. So I think I'm going to make a carrot cake. I'm still feeling the super fall vibes right now. I can see outside my window all the leaves like turning brown and I'm just like, ooh. Plus, I feel like carrot cake just has a special place in my heart. When I was growing up, whenever we would have like a birthday in the family, my parents would always make a carrot cake, and I thought it was because my family was like super granola and we were just really healthy, and I thought that carrot cake was healthy. I thought that if it had carrots in it, it was like a vegetable, like a health food, and it's not. It's still a cake. Even if you put carrots in it, it's still a cake. Anyway, that was a little bit of a rant. I think I'm gonna make a carrot cake. I think I'm gonna make it gluten-free. None of us are actually gluten-free, but I just enjoy doing gluten-free baking, so I think I'm going to make it with almond flour. When I bake, I generally don't follow recipes, which is a little bit risky. Fingers crossed it turns out okay. I also have a bunch of cashews that I soaked in hot water this morning, so I'm gonna use these to make kind of like a cream cheese frosting. Yeah, let's just start baking because I feel like I'm just talking to you guys and I'm just boring. Actually, the first thing I'm gonna do is actually gonna preheat my oven. Okay, so I preheated the oven and I'm going to start with the dry ingredients. And I think I'm gonna not whisk. What is this? A sifter. I'm gonna sift all of my dry ingredients, especially with almond flour. It can get a little bit clumpy and no one wants clumpy almond flour. I think I'm gonna go 2 cups. And then I'm going to do a half a cup of coconut flour. I feel like you gotta have lots of coconut flavor in carrot cake, so I'm gonna do a half a cup of that. Also going to add some shredded coconut as well. Okay, now this is quite a big cake, so I'm gonna need like a good amount of cinnamon. This doesn't fit in here, so I'm just gonna have to, whoops. So a tablespoon of cinnamon. I need 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And we're gonna need some cloves as well. I'm not gonna measure this, I'm just gonna say a dash of cloves. Clove is super strong, you don't want too much of that. I've added too much and then it just ruins everything. Okay, and then salt. I'm gonna do 1/2 teaspoon. And I just thought about this, but if this turns out really good, of course I'll put the recipe down below. I forgot to say that in the intro. But back to this, and I'm going to do a teaspoon of baking soda. Oh, I should have sifted that. Sift the baking soda because now we risk the clumps. You should sift baking soda. Don't do what I do what I say. Okay, now I'm just going to mix this all together. Now I'm gonna set this aside and I'm gonna start with some eggs. Now when I was little, my grandmother told me never to tap them on the side of the bowl because you actually increase the risk of getting your shells in. And so I always tap them just on the counter and then break them in. So look at me giving tips on how to crack eggs, making up a recipe. I feel like such a domestic goddess today. I guess that's what Sunday baking is for. But anyway, back to baking. I'm just gonna start with 4 eggs. And then I'm going to add in my sweetener. So I think I'm going to use maple syrup. I'm gonna use probably like 2/3 cup of maple syrup. This is what I was talking about when I said like I used to think that carrot cake was like super healthy. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard for it not to be good with this much syrup. Now this would absolutely not be one of my recipes without tahini. Like this combo, maple syrup and tahini, putting these together in any way, like it's gonna be good. It just adds such a nice like richness. You guys know the obsession that I have with tahini, so I know this cake is going to be good because it's got 2 of my favorite ingredients in it, like tahini and maple syrup together. It's everything and I know it's going to make it delicious. I'm probably going to do a 1/4 cup of tahini. Yeah, if you're not putting tahini in baked good, you're missing out too. And I'm going to add a little bit of non-dairy milk. You can probably use whatever non-dairy milk you have. So we're going to do a 1/4 cup of soy milk, a teaspoon of vanilla, coconut oil. And what I normally do for coconut oil, I just put it in the preheated oven for like 30 seconds and it normally melts it. While the coconut oil is melting, I'm going to shred up my carrots. And I don't even know how many carrots I'm gonna need. I'm gonna start shredding, kind of add them as I go, and just go until I feel like there's a good carrot to batter ratio. That looks like a good amount to me, so I would say probably 3 large carrots. Yeah, I think that's gonna be plenty. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of applesauce as well. I just find that applesauce, it goes well with the fall flavors, and it also just makes your cakes really moist. Probably like a half a cup. I'm going to whisk together my wet ingredients, and then I'm going to add in my coconut oil. Before I mix everything together, I want to get my baking sheets ready so that I can just put the batter in. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my coconut oil and line the baking trays. Okay, so those are all lined. Then I'm going to add in my carrot. Put that in as well. I'm going to add in a handful of raisins. And I'm also going to add in some walnuts, and I'll throw those in as well. I'm going to fold in my dry ingredients now. So I'm going to go slow just in case I don't need to use all of it. You know what? I'm going to add one thing actually. I'm going to add a little bit of arrowroot flour. I know this is kind of last minute and this might be a bad idea, but I just find that this makes gluten-free baking kind of stick together, and I forgot to add it before, but I don't want it to clump. I might add it to the rest of my dry ingredients and then mix that in. Yeah, so to the rest of my dry ingredients, I'm just gonna add 2 tablespoons of arrowroot flour, and hopefully it still gets dispersed evenly. Here we go. So we're just gonna keep adding this. So I'm going to transfer that into my baking tray, and I'm just going to pop those in the oven for probably 30 minutes, I would say. I have a little bit of extra batter, so I'm gonna make a little mini one just so that I can taste it when it comes out and like make sure that it's not terrible before I feed it to my family. But so the cakes are in the oven, so I'm just going to make up my cashew cream cheese frosting. I'm gonna use 2 cups of soaked cashews, 1/4 cup of maple syrup. To make it kind of tangy, I'm gonna add in a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and I'm also going to do a teaspoon of lemon juice as well, and a teaspoon of vanilla. I didn't end up using all the coconut oil that I melted. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of that in because as the icing cools down, I think that it will kind of coagulate and make it nice and thick and creamy, so I'm going to add that in as well. And maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to blend that up. Just gonna do a little taste test. Yeah, I mean, like, that's delicious. Oh my gosh, that's good. I'm gonna put this in an airtight container and put it in the fridge for a little bit, and then I'll show you guys when I take the cake out of the oven. Okay, now my cakes have been cooling in the fridge for a little bit. Time is kind of working against me, and I need these cakes to cool a little bit faster than they are right now. So I'm gonna go grab them. I think they're cool enough that I could take them out of the tin and let them cool like on a plate. So I'm going to grab them out of the fridge and try flipping them over. Yay! Oh my gosh, it came out okay. I think that looks really good. Wow, okay. I'm gonna throw that back in the fridge, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. I'm super impressed so far by how these have turned out. Like, I was worried that they were gonna fall apart because they didn't have any gluten in them, but they're holding up really well. Okay, so the cakes are all cooled off. I think I'm gonna do cake, icing, cake. I don't know if this was anyone else's experience when they were little, but I always used to wonder how they got the frosting layer in between the cake. It didn't dawn on me that it was like 2 separate cakes stacked on top of each other with frosting, but like I just didn't understand that when I was little. I thought that they somehow like magically baked the frosting in. Anyway, I don't know if anyone else had that experience when they were little, but I was always very confused. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of shredded coconut to the top as well. And I think I'm just going to chop up a little bit of walnuts as well and just put them kind of like around the edge as like a little crust. So this is the final cake. I'm honestly so impressed by how well this turned out. I did not think that it was gonna turn out this good. I don't wanna cut it up right now because my family's coming over and I kind of wanna be like, oh, look at what I baked. But I do have my little baby one that I made up. I'm going to do like a little taste test of that now. I'm going to use up the rest of my cream cheese frosting and just make like a tiny little cake for myself. Just to make sure it's not poisonous, right? Before I feed it to my family or something like that. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That is so good. Are you kidding me? That is so good. That tastes like my childhood. All right, guys, with that being said, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I normally make what I eat in a week videos. So if you want to stick around, hang out with me each week, see what I eat, definitely click the subscribe button. Make sure to like this video if you did enjoy it. It really helps out my channel. I will see you guys in the next video.
Tell me something.